r/AskReddit, what was the most uncomfortable/awkward moment you ever experienced playing Dungeons and Dragons? Happened last week. Someone got upset after asking them to mute their mic while eating and stormed out, derailing the session. The Rape Dwarf. I'll expand on this, but I warn you that I tend to be pretty wordy. Okay, so this was my first session of D&D. It's probably relevant that I was the only woman at the table, playing the only female character, a human rogue. Due to plot reasons, we ended up taking a job to clear a mine of monsters. It became apparent that this wasn't going to go well when the dwarf, who'd been quiet up to this point, started describing his combat actions with a little more relish than was necessary. We ran into a small group of goblin children fleeing from us, and the dwarf announced that he was going to murder them all and rape their corpses, I think. It was a while ago, rape was involved. The paladin took issue with this and managed to hold him back, allowing the children to escape. Dwarf was not happy. We proceeded to the lower levels of the mine, where it turned out that there was a group of giant spiders, and naturally I managed to roll a critical one, getting stuck in some webbing. The dwarf's player looked me dead in the eye and announced I raped her. Immediate silence followed. No one seemed to quite know what to say to this. The DM was the first to speak, saying, "Right, I'm going to say the last 5 minutes never happened." Everyone agreed that this was probably the best thing to do. The dwarf didn't like this, and after a few protests that he was just role-playing his character, sulkied in the corner for the rest of the session. I don't think he ever came back. Sure was an interesting first session. I still like D&D though. This was more than 15 years ago. Climbing up the inside of a large grain silo at night, torches in hand, we ascended towards the treasure we thought was at the top. All of a sudden a noise. I draw both of my swords. A player exclaims, "Are you sure?" The DM confirms. With a subtle nod from the player, suddenly the DM gets an excited look in his eye. Everyone roll a luck check. And I mean everyone. A cry of surprise goes around the table. Wait, what? We all exclaim nearly in unison. Danver drew his swords. Yeah, and? Danver was holding a torch. If he draws his swords, I have to assume that he dropped his torch, in the silo, full of very dry grain. It is now a roaring fire. Only one of us survived. If you check the top of r/horror stories, it's apparently common. Common was a poor word choice, for players to try to rape other players in-game, particularly with female players being the victim. Also common, the DM trying to get female players raped by orcs or some other nonsense. One particular story was really upsetting, as the girl in question had been raped before, so she really wasn't okay with it. She ended up leaving and everyone was pissed at the GM, appropriately. If you're a GM and you try to incorporate rape into your game without the meta consent of the players, you're a fornicating scumbag. Edit, I would like to say that, though it happens, it's not a thing I've ever run into, and you shouldn't let it discourage you from trying D&D. I've only ever had fun and wonderful experiences, personally. A player was being a dick to my wife who was new to playing. It wasn't like just him and her character not being compatible. He was outwardly doing and saying little things to piss her off IRL to where she didn't want to play anymore. I forget what it was, but he said something and I, the DM, blew the flood up at him. Most everyone else was outside smoking, but they heard and were like, WTF was that about? Cue much silence and uncomfortableness. Oddly enough, he stopped and they're cool as shit now. So, yelling works sometimes. Some people are oblivious to boundaries. Yelling usually makes boundaries pretty obvious. Our friend's abusive ex-boyfriend she forced us to play with won't stop beheading and skinning things and keeping them as trophies. Even though the creature we almost all died fighting, including killed my beloved pet bird when I couldn't make a session, so my player had to be a NPC that session, was starting to respawn and he wouldn't get rid of it. Huge mansion house rented full of gamer roommates. None of us felt like running and we all wanted to play together. So, we had a new GM over that we found on a meetup type site. The first campaign he runs for us is a pre-written module out of a very old Dragon magazine. The plot is that a husband has gone missing and the wife hires adventurers to find him. Seems harmless. We go into the basement and there's a rough-hewn tunnel bored into it. Adventure into the tunnel. Kill rats. Kill bigger rats. Kill things that look like half rat half human monsters. We think we're rats, so, okay. Get to a den where Holy Bahamut the husband is aggressively being ridden by a giant rat mother. In the act of it. Horrified, we kill the rat mother sex beast. We try to figure out if the husband is okay. He's furious. We slew his rat paramour and attacks as if under a spell. We try everything we can to cure him, but his onslaught is relentless. We ended the game with him bound and gagged, returning him to the wife and saying he needs mental help after the trauma he endured. The wife thanks us and pays us. Us roommates are looking at each other like, WTF just happened here? This is the module that this dude read and thought, heck yeah. That's what I'm running for, brand new people I have never met before. It'll be awesome. There was this really creepy dude. He wanted to roleplay sex with a maid in an inn. The DM let him to that for what felt like more than 20 MN. They were 3 years older than me and I had been in college for 8 months. I really had to work on some assignments and this D&D was my only distraction for a whole week. It was pretty obvious they had no real world experience at all and would not be able to have any before very long. Whenever the girlfriend of the DM would get mad at the DM for the DM's character that joined the party being incredibly strong and making her feel inadequate. That's so weird when it happens. Once played a game where the major story we were following was resolved by the DM while we all stood there, feeling like we shouldn't have bothered. I try to make my NPC party members especially useless. They'll come up with a couple alternative step 1 of plans, some decent, some unusable. They'll stand around like idiots if they're not told what to do, and look to the PCs for advice. They might leave, or threaten to leave, they might demand a part of treasure, but otherwise they have almost no will of their own. Think we found Todd Howard's Reddit profile. A guy in our group had the terribly stereotypical nice guy thing going on with a girl. She'd made it clear several times, including once in front of the whole group, because he called her out, that she was not interested in him as anything other than a friend. Anytime we all played together, every move this guy made was to protect her character, assist her character, and then lace in some seedy attempts at romance. The DM wanted none of it and wouldn't play into his dumb romantic arcs, and the nice guy tried to add on to what the DM was laying down. Example: DM, you successfully block the enemy arrows from hitting girl by expertly somersaulting in front of her and use your rolling momentum to charge back towards the fight in the center of the town. Nice guy: no, I blocked their arrows by wrapping girl in an embrace with my shield, pulling her to me as the arrows come down. She clutches at my chest and buries her face in my neck as she hears them clang against my shield. I grab girl by the hand and assure her she's safe at my side. I would lay down my life for her, and we run together back to the fight, her slightly behind me for protection. DM, no you don't. Needless to say, his invites to the group dried up fairly quickly. No you don't. Dragon Savage. I might be out of line here, but some of y'all need to cool it with the D&D rapes. Y'all mothers need Bahamut. And I thought my experience was uncomfortable, with my GM dropping sus hints that I could get raped, but then I see all these characters actually being raped. What is with some people? I always knew I was lucky to find such a great group to play with. I now have a whole new level of appreciation for them. You have been blessed by Bahamut, the dragon god of justice. Like, comment, and subscribe to help cleanse the world of evil. Also, leave a comment about what you want my next video to be on.